My name is Ravi Srinivasan, and I'm a programming associate here at the festival. We are thrilled to have the world premiere screenings of Michael Noer's Before the Frost. To begin, we would like to acknowledge that tonight's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community, not just today, but every day here at the festival. I want to remind you that this film is eligible for the Gross People's Choice Award. You can vote for this film with your TIFF app or go on your computer online and at tiff.net/vote. We would like to thank Trust Nordisk for providing us with the film, and a big thanks every year to the Danish Film Institute for their generous support. Michael Noer was born in Denmark. His previous features include the documentary Son of God, Hit First, Hit Hardest, Northwest, Key House and Mirror, and of course Papillon, which played the festival here last year. One of the great filmmakers working in Denmark today, and we are thrilled that he is still here on this rainy day to join us. Please welcome Michael Noer.
Thank you for having me, and it's a joy to be back. And it's also very fitting for this movie that the weather has changed. Not only does it mean that people, even more people go to the cinema, but it's also very fitting for this movie, actually, because the change of weather means a lot to the drama of this film, and I'll get back to that very quickly. Just as an introduction, I'd like to say that apart from being a filmmaker, I'm also a dad. I have Elliot, who's 6 years old, and I have Coco, who's 4. Elliot is very vulnerable, and Coco, she's a devil, but you're probably used to that. There's also a devil in this movie, but that's a grown-up man, and I think you'll understand it when you've seen the film. This film is in Danish. It's set in the 1850s, so it's a costume drama, but I'd rather like to call it a Scandi Western. Because I think it's much more in the tradition of Unforgiven. So even though I tried to direct Jesper Christensen if he was going to be like Clint Eastwood, I think he did his own version of a Scandi tormented man trying to get through the winter. So, getting back to the weather change, it's called Before the Frost because it means a lot for a farmer from Scandinavia, and probably also from Canada. When the weather changes, you can't get anything out of your soil, so you need to have enough food to be able to survive. I'm not going to reveal too much of the plot, but I will say that instead of making a movie which was based on a book, which I did with Papillon a year ago, oh my God, this book was much more based on research done specifically for the film. So many historical movies are often based on books or fictional books or what have you, but this is more based on real research, and I hope you'll enjoy that just as much as any other costume drama or Western. So, without further ado, I'd like to say that I wouldn't have been able to make this film if I wasn't a dad. My other movies are pretty violent, about men kicking other men's ass or cutting their heads off and stuff like that. There's a little bit of violence in this movie as well. Obviously I can't help that, but I wouldn't be able to have done it if I didn't know what it means to try to find the balance between the ego of the individual, which in this case is the dad, but also the love you can have to your children. And let me just make a small extended introduction to this. Every morning I use 15 minutes on getting Coco dressed. Well, she uses 15 minutes on getting herself dressed. And when the winter comes, before the frost, when the winter comes, sometimes, and I'm sad to say so, and don't call the police or something like that, but I sometimes have to force her into, in Denmark we have these full body suits, really hard to get kids into. And she doesn't want to do it, but I have to do it because I don't want her to get a cold. I know that she needs to keep warm. This movie is more or less the same, and it's more or less that little drama that I've magnetized and added with 1,000. So it's a movie about love. There's a little bit of blood. It's not a costume drama. Please enjoy. And I have to say, Jesper Christensen, he's a very big star in Scandinavia. So and he was in the James Bond movies. And Clara, she's a very young talent. They will be here as well for the Q&A, so I hope you'll stick around. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please stick around.
Welcome once again, director Michael Noer, and the two stars of the film, Clara Rossiger and Jesper Christensen. Questions? Comments? Thoughts on land reform? Right in the middle there. Can you guys talk about the use of the hand holding image in the film?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, there's also a practicality about doing a period movie like this. You're limited with the amount of extras you have, so you kind of like have to find symbolism and acting also in the small. You can say the hand in many ways represents the most important tool that a farmer can have, but it's also a way of you're reaching out to other people. So the hand means a lot, and you also see Jens, he's reaching out for the rich people when he gets up to the big farm, but they keep their hands tight like this. So it was a part of the research about how the culture of holding hands or folding your hands changed, but also how his hands become old and also in a way create a suspenseful mystery in the beginning of whose hand is in deep within the water. And having done Papillon, I kind of knew that I couldn't do like big total shots with 500 extras. But a hand that can do the job as well.
Next, yeah, there was at the back there in red.
There seems to be some assumption of history between the Swedes and the Danes. And the point seems to be a comment on that. What can you enlighten us? What can you say about that?
Gentleman asked, "What's up with the Swedes and the Danes?" Or was up?
Well, I mean, I think one of the most important soccer matches that a football fan is always looking forward to is Sweden against Denmark, especially if they can compete against each other, the European or the World Cup. So Denmark and Sweden have always been at war, and they have Ingmar Bergman, and we kind of like have Lars von Trier. So they're kind of like the pretentious big brother, and we have this weird, half-sick asshole. But they both make really good movies, and in a way you can say culturally they represent two different directions. So we're in the same kind of family, but we're two brothers fighting each other. And in the historical context, you can say that in this period they were both part of the most proactive, industrialized way of thinking, but they also had the largest amount of poor and hungry people. So in the southern part of Sweden at that time was the most amount of hungry people. So you had a high class and a low class in Sweden at that time, and that meant that they were able to create a larger workforce and also a quicker industrialization of going from individual farms to bigger farms. And that's, of course, something that not only spread from Sweden, but also was developed in Germany. But they were clever at transitioning, working with the Germans and such. And Denmark has always been a little behind on everything. But we take things with a laugh. But of course, you can talk about this for a long time. There's a lot of history to catch up on the Swedes and the Danes. But the funny thing is that these things still appear. They have a much larger industry than we have. But we have Lego, so maybe we're more inventive. I don't know.
Very full answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, over there.
Yes, I was amazed with the scene with the delivery of the calf. And I was just wondering the challenges you must have had with that scene.
The gentleman was amazed by the scene where the calf was delivered, and were there any? How did that go?
There are two holes. And let's leave it at that. And it was pretty risky, actually, because cows are bigger than you think. And if they suddenly decide to do like this, and there's an actor who has his arms inside them, which I had, you will be sort of flung to the wall or something, which is not what you would want. So, and otherwise it's, yes, I had my arm all the way into that cow. Let's move on.
Yeah. No rehearsals. One take. Yeah.
No rehearsals.
When it was kind of like get ready to film. So, but there's also a hygienic reason for this. You'd think that it was better to put the hand in the other hole, but you don't want to make infections into the cow or anything. The cow still has to be okay. But it is shot. I mean, of course, the cow is not pregnant, but the technique is that you move the hand in, and then you can't just use it while switching the legs. You have to find the head, and then the head there in the head you have the eye holes. That's the only significant thing you can actually find with your hands. So you find the eye holes, and then you move it. But you want this part of the cow to be rolled like this, and then you can pull it out with the legs. So yeah.
Good question. Yes, in the middle there.
Okay, I have a couple of questions relating just to the customs of the time. The thing about putting the coins on the eyes, the thing about when they were engaged, all of a sudden they're sleeping together.
The question was about customs at the time. One, the coins on the eyes when they passed away, and the minute they were engaged, they were sleeping together. Was that where did that come from?
Well, when I was a young filmmaker in film school, I would be like, I'm never gonna do a fucking costume drama. Now I've done like two, and I really want to do one more because I figured out that there's a lot of dishonesty by making movies which are based on literature. If you look at Jane Austen, she actually does which is great. Some of the good books are great, but they're sold as a product of entertainment. It's almost like if a historian found Die Hard and would use that as an example of how a relationship would be. Well, okay, that was a bad example because it's pretty much how a relationship is. But so the thing is that we did this basic research, and it was great to just find some small bits here and there that I hadn't seen in that many movies, or which was true. So we work with historians. So the reason for the coins is that you want to make sure that the body stays dead. So when you reveal the head again, you will want to if the coins are not still placed on the face, it's probably because the ghost of the body is wandering around. And the reason why you take the body in and out of the window, well, we don't show the body coming in of the window, but we show the body going out of the window, is because you don't want to show the ghost where the door is, because otherwise the ghost is going to come back. And this is not necessarily because you'd think that the ghost is going to come back and haunt you. It's actually to give the ghost peace. Well, in this case, you could say that if this was a 3-hour movie, you could have an element of the ghost coming back, because there'd be good reason for the ghost coming back in this film. But hence there is no ghosts in real life. There's no ghost coming back. But this is a practical approach to a mystical world, and I kind of like that. And there's thousands more of those elements in different cultures, which have kind of like gotten lost in the industry of literature and still gets lost in the way we do pop culture. And not pointing fingers at anyone, but it's just really interesting if you go back to basic way of doing research. I thought it was interesting. Also, the reason why you have the scissor is for the body to be able to scissor his own way out of the casket, you can say. And what you had another question was
the fact that they slept together right away.
Oh yeah, well that's a very interesting thing, because we were really thinking about the script. We were like, oh, but everybody knows that you're not supposed to sleep together before you're actually married. What do you mean everybody knows? Yes, but that's our perception of what we think. But if you actually talk to historical, well, obviously these people are dead, so I can't interview them, but I can try to find as many valid sources as I possibly could. The reason for a Jane Austen drama to be about the woman was not allowed to sleep with the husband after marriage is because the manipulative way of the church being able to always validate their existence. The church has a stronger validation of its existence if the people do what the church wants them to do. So historically, they will always also say, people used to do what we say. You should keep doing what we say. So that's also how you can manipulate with history. That's something to think about. So actually, they were much more sexually active than you would think, because it was much more important if the fathers were happy than if the church was happy. And that's an interesting thing, because you'd think that we become less religious through time, but actually we've become more religious if you look from I'm just talking about Denmark here, but if you look at the time of 1850s until now, there's actually a stronger religious movement that you have in some communes around there. Well, that's a whole nother story. It's extremely interesting how you see that you think that progression is a line, but progression is a circle, and there's a lot of these circles. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting. So I know, and also because we film it from the perspective of the dad, I didn't really want to make a big thing out of it because I thought it was more like, don't do the melodrama of the, the girl that can't get the boy. It's like doing Romeo and Juliet, but filming it from the perspective of the dad. And he's only looking at it from safety, from a insurance perspective. He's not into like sneaking in and looking if they actually have sex. So I don't know if they have sex because we only know what Jens knows.
I wanted to ask you guys a question about about approaching a historical piece like this. How do you do your research? How do you approach those characters?
I have my own.
I'm sorry. Sorry. You lead.
Well, I find it. Well, I didn't really do much research because I thought that was very hard to do. But I did a lot of thinking about how it would be to be a woman back then. And just in that kind of community, what kind of person would I be from the person that I am today? And I did a lot of thinking about how I would react if my father decided that I should marry another man against my will. So yeah, a lot of thinking. Yeah.
I should say I received a lot of knowledge secondhand from this guy while we were working on the script. I didn't do much sort of searching of my own. I found a lot of stuff very surprising, interesting, even like the things that I thought there would be very strict rules around marriage, and you didn't even touch or meet or something before marriage. And I was surprised to find out how lively a time they had. So, and then there's a lot of sort of technicalities around it, which is pretty boring, but sort of how do you handle mud for walls? And what do you feed animals in 1850 and how, and all that kind of research. I think sort of the role as the man, the dad in the film, is more or less me, under different circumstances, in a different time. But he's me. I'd do the same idiotic things, I guess, if I was sort of up against the wall like he is. So there's a lot of practical stuff, and then there's the human being, which is more or less sort of eternal, or what you want to call it.
Also, we wrote, as you can probably guess, we wrote the script with Jesper in mind all the time. So it was always my dream that Jesper would say yes to the film, and we developed also together. So we never imagined anyone else than him.
Cool. Good. Was there more circles? Did I miss that? Okay. Next. Anyone? Just at the back there. The lady asked. The lady pointed out that everything the father does, even though he's trying to make his family safer, tends to put them at greater risk. And she wanted to know if there was a possibility that the daughter was in danger, because it's never explained what happened to the previous wife of the the estate owner.
There's more answers to the same questions, because the reason why we chose for him to have a widow was we didn't want him to be too much of mommy's boy, because if he had never been in a relationship before, being of that age, you'd start thinking of other things. But the whole thing about thinking of danger, I actually think is fine. I just didn't want people to think otherwise. You know what I mean? I'm living with my mom and I've never had a girlfriend. Then you go like, But I'm living with my mom, and the other one, she's dead. So it's that'll work kind of in the Western genre. You know what I mean? So the other one's more a Woody Allen movie, but that's also good. But that's how it helps when you always have to make 1,000 decisions all the time when you make a film. So I like making genre movies because then it's like 90% of it is already decided, because you want to make it suspenseful and you want to try to make it as three-dimensional as possible. But the most important thing is to keep the motor running. I think.
Good question. I think we could keep one or two more. Anyone? Just right there. We'll try to get both. Go. Did Signe know that her father had set fire to the farm?
No, I don't think that she knew. Of course, she senses that there's something up that's not what it's supposed to be. But no, I was also thinking about the last thank you she says to him. I was worried that the audience would think, oh, so she actually knew it and she's thanking him. But I think that she thanks him because in the beginning she don't want to get married to this guy. And then everything turns out perfectly for her. And then she wants to thank her father for that. But she doesn't know what that would have cost him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It really was.
So cold.
Freaking cold.
Okay, so on that note, I think you should go to Denmark, but maybe more in the summer. Thank you guys so much for coming, and congratulations on the film.